Okay, welcome back. This is our final video. What I'm going to do this time is introduce the data analyst Toolpak in Excel. This is an add-on feature in Excel that all of you have access to. It may just need to be enabled. Okay, so here I have my similar fantasy football spreadsheet. I have year, I have team name, I have number of yards, plays, yards per play, turnovers, win-loss, a measure of how well the team performed, points they scored, points against, and if they made the playoffs or not. Okay. Data variables. And from something like this, I might want to ask, okay, well, what attributes does a team that scores often or scores a lot have a better chance of making the playoffs or not? Or does a team that has a lot of yards per play make the playoffs or not? Or do they win a lot? We can ask those types of questions, but we need to get some descriptive statistics first, and then we can work into correlations and do some other things. So you'll see here that I am in the data ribbon. In the data ribbon, you'll see over here I have analysis, and I have data analysis. You may not have this. So in order to enable it, you may need to go to Info or to Account, Options, there it is, Options. From Options, you'll go to Add-ins. And then from Add-ins, you should see right here this Excel add-in. Okay. You go, or let me cancel it. Let's do it again so you can see it a little better. Options, go down to Add-ins. You're going to see Manage Add-ins. You're going to go, and then you're going to make sure that it's clicked here. Once it's clicked here, you're going to hit OK, and then it should populate in the data analysis, in the data ribbon at the very end. Okay, now what is this? This is an add-in in Excel that allows us to automate some of the analysis tools that we need. Okay, so we're going to do descriptive statistics, which is a good starting point. What are descriptive statistics? These are things like mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and those types of useful tools for getting to know our data. All right, so we're going to select that. In here, we're going to select our range. Okay, we're going to select, say, these columns. We're going to group the data by columns. We're going to say labels in the first row. And we want to have summary statistics, and that should be fine. We'll put it in a new worksheet. Okay. If you don't click labels in the first row, or you don't click summary statistics, it is not going to work. Okay. Oh, contains non-numeric data. Okay. Thought that would happen. So we're just going to change this to this. Okay, it cannot handle the numeric data, non-numeric data, the labels here. I thought it might be able to, but it can't. So we're going to just do that. We'll hit OK. So we're just selecting numbers. And what we have now is kind of complicated, or kind of not a great output, but it's still useful. What we have is, for the variable yards, we have the mean, the standard error, median mode, standard deviation, or how much variance. We have sample variance, some measures of skewness, the range, min and max, sum, and count. And so what you'll notice is all of these things are things that we could have done manually with formulas. This is just a way of doing it significantly quicker. Okay, and so what we can see here is from yards is that, okay, yards, the average is 5602, the max is 74, the min is 38, and from the standard deviation, 66% of all of the observations are going to fall in this range of this plus this, and then this minus this. Okay, so 66% of all of the observations, and in all of the observations we have 352, are going to fall in this range. Okay, so we can kind of get a sense of what the data looks like based on that. And then we have plays, we have yards, and so we have all of these data points available to us now from this, and we didn't have to do it by hand. Okay, so hopefully you all remember this from stats or from EEC or from your classes previously. These are measures of their descriptive statistics. Again, to get these, we want to go to data analysis, pick descriptive statistics, select our data. You can do that by clicking the columns. Get that little black arrow, click and hold, and then drag across. Only numeric columns. You're going to hit labels in first row and then summary statistics. You could also do confidence levels for the mean if you wanted to. You don't need to. And then hit OK. Okay, and so then we have our data. Cool. And so that's a good way of getting our project started. Next, we want to look at correlations. What are correlations? Correlations are look at the strength and the development, the strength and the direction of relationships between variables. So if one variable increases by 1, how much does another variable increase? And looks at that relationship. Okay, so I can go in here, I can look at correlation, and then I can look at, again, our numerical columns, labels in first row, and then OK. All right, so what am I looking at here? I'm looking at a correlation table. And you can see how it's 1 through the middle. This is saying that because yards and yards are perfectly correlated. Plays and yards are correlated at 0.57%. So it's fairly okay. Yards per play and yards are highly correlated. Points for and yards are highly correlated at 8.83 in a positive direction, which means that the more yards you get, the more points you get. Makes sense, right? Or the more yards you get, the more yards per play. The more yards you get, the less turnovers you have. And this is one of the ones that we're interested in. The more yards you get is 0.5 correlated, so not terribly strongly correlated with the win percentage. Is there anything in making the playoffs that's highly correlated? Well, win-loss is highly correlated, but that is what we would call tautological, right? Or what we'd have is sort of multicollinearity is another term for this. The variables are telling you the same thing, right? If you have a high win-loss percentage, you make the playoffs. So those are kind of telling us the same thing. So none of these are a dramatic. I mean, points for is okay, but nothing in here is shocking in terms of what it's going to tell us in terms of teams that make the playoffs. So we don't have the best model yet. One thing that I always like doing is if you highlight this text, highlight these cells, go to conditional formatting, and put in color scales, you can kind of get a sense of where the strong correlations are or where the strong negative correlations are. So, points against is strongly negatively correlated, and points for. So point determines your win-loss, right? So point negative 0.6, positive 0.7. How many points you score matter. That intuitively makes sense, right? We can also do regression analysis in here. What is a regression analysis? Regression we're going to talk about later in the semester. I will show you how it's done in here, and then we'll talk about later. So this is correlation. Again, to what extent as one relationship changes or one variable changes does another change. So looking at how those strength and direction of variables are related. Linear regression is looking more at the relationship between variables and trying to understand and model exactly what that relationship is. So let's go back to our sheet here, and we can build in a regression model. Okay, you can see there's a whole host here to choose from. I would recommend that you try some of these things as well. Here we have our y, our x, our labels, and all of this. Y is our dependent. What are we interested in? What's changing? Well, we're interested in, let's say, our win percentage. And then for what determines that, let's just say these first ones here. If you score a lot, if you run a lot of plays, if you're effective, or if you turn the ball over. And we want to have, we'll standardize, that's fine, okay? And then, that's never fun. input. It may need us to actually click. This is one that's annoying, I think. Some of these you can just select the columns. I think this one you have to actually select the cells. So let's try it now. There it goes. So for regression, you actually have to select the cells and whatnot. So if those of you have done regression analysis before, that's a pretty easy way of doing it. I'll get into interpretations later. What I can say right now is, we have a model. It's not explaining a lot. Our R squared is at 0.46, so it's not really a good explanatory model, right? If it was highly, it would explain a lot of the change in win percentage. We would be closer to 1 here instead of 0.46. We see some statistical significance. No, we see none, only in turnovers. Turnovers is the only number that's statistically significant in R. So functionally, basically, turnovers is a major factor in this model, which is not effective in determining what a team's win percentage is, which intuitively makes sense. The last thing I want to mention, and you can get into this if you like, we won't as much here, but this also offers a lot of tools in hypothesis testing, which are the t-test, z-test, two-sample variance. These look for variations across means and whether or not two samples are related. ANOVAs are the same thing, right? So to what extent are different sample means or comparative means across different groups related, right? As one set of means increases, do we see a comparable change in means on another one? So it's whether or not to confirm that there is or rather to disprove the null hypothesis so that we can move forward with further analysis. We don't do this as much in our program, but it is something that you should be familiar with from your stats class. You can also do time series analysis in here. I would not recommend it though. It's not really strong enough to do that. We can talk about other software that's a bit better for that. So from in Excel, what I would recommend doing are functionally looking at descriptive statistics in getting our correlations. And then if you're going to do simple regression testing, you can do that in here as well. But there is better software for that as well, especially as you get into more complex models. So I will stop there. That is kind of the Analyst Toolpak in a summary. Hopefully now you have kind of a broad understanding of how Excel functions and can do some data analysis in there. All right. Look forward to seeing you all in class.